Hi guys! We are on week 8 this week, and we are talking about what it means to be in the process. So in our book, it talks a little bit about different seasons of your life, different challenges and hardships, times that you feel like you're waiting for God or not hearing for God, and how all of this kind of is encompassed in the idea of being in the process. And so to better understand this, we're going to look at the story of Moses. It starts in Exodus 1. In Egypt, there's a new king, and he wants to contain the Israelites. He treats them horribly. He oppresses them. And this king instructs all babies that are Hebrew boys to be thrown into the river. And he tells the midwives to do this. But the midwives are more dedicated to God and fear God more than they do the king, so they disobey this order. And Moses' mom has him. She hides him for 3 months, and then she leaves him in a basket, and the Pharaoh's daughter finds him, and she raises him. So Moses is living this luxurious lifestyle, but as he gets older and he realizes the oppression that his people are facing, he becomes extremely angry. And he kills a driver, and he fleds to Midian. And this is kind of a changing point in his life. So in Midian, he meets a priest and ends up marrying one of his daughters, and then works as a farmhand for years to come. And then in Exodus 3, we see that God has been at work throughout these 40 years of Moses' life, where Moses kind of has heard nothing from God. It's been radio silent. And then one day, Moses is walking and he sees a bush that is on fire, but it's not burning. And God speaks to Moses through this bush, and he tells him that Moses needs to go back to Egypt to deliver the Israelite people. And this encounter that Moses has with God, I think, is such a good depiction of what it means to fear God and just to be in the presence of his power. And this sacred encounter is just so humbling and so incredible. So I think that is it's just awesome. And then in Exodus 3, verses 7 to 10, we learn that God has always been with his people. He's seen the Israelites in pain. He's understanding what's happening, and he's always been there, even when the people feel like they didn't know where God was or that he wasn't present. God never abandons us, and he's in the situation. He's just waiting for the right time. And so every day and every situation in our lives, God can use for a greater purpose. I know it's really hard to believe that everything happens for a reason. And I don't think that it does. I think that God has the power to take what we go through and create a purpose out of it. And I think that this story just exemplifies that perfectly. God's power and his strength. He can turn any situation into something that can be used to glorify him. And I think that is just so cool. So Moses shows us throughout this story that the process really prepares us for what's next, and that keeping our hearts focused on him is the answer to our prayers and longing, as hard as it can be when you're in a time where you don't feel God and you haven't heard from God, or you think God's not there with you. It's a really challenging feeling and really challenging place to be in, but God will never abandon you, and actively pursuing your faith and turning your heart towards him during that time will be the answers to your prayers and longing. So I really resonated with this story because I feel like all of college the past couple years, I feel like it's really been a time in my life that I've been in the process. I think coming into college, I felt really strong in my faith, and I couldn't be shaken by much. But there has been so many changes over the past few years, and even this year alone, and this past week, this past month, these past couple months, they've been so challenging with just the world and the place that it is right now, and everything that we're asked to deal with. And so I think that has been really challenging for me. There have been a lot of times where I feel like I haven't heard God. and that God's not there, and that God's not answering my prayers, and that God isn't working throughout my process. But with that feeling, I have also realized the importance of actively pursuing Him every day and praying to Him and turning my heart towards Him day after day, regardless of if I feel like my prayers have been answered or if I feel like situations that I'm going through have been resolved. I think I've really been constantly in a process of refinement over the past couple years with myself, learning how to love myself and what I need and what I want, and with others, learning how to love others well and to show Christ's love to others. And there's been just, again, so much waiting, looking towards the future and not knowing what's coming next, not really knowing what my purpose is right now or what my purpose will be in the future and how God will want to use me. But in those uncomfortable times and the times that I feel like God isn't there are the times that I've realized that I really need to dig deeper into the Word and just to continue to patiently wait, because I know time and time again He will show up, and that God is compassionate and He is good in every situation. Also, through the story of Moses, we see that the works of God happen through His people. God chooses Moses to go and deliver the Israelite people from this oppression and everything that's happening in Egypt. And so I think that is a really big message and takeaway from me as well, is that God is working through the people in my life. So even when I feel like He isn't there or I can't hear Him, every single day He's using the people in my life just to be with me, and He's using the people in my life to do His work, and that is just a really beautiful thing. Also, something that I also forget often is that, as I just said, Jesus is at work in our lives, even when we feel that nothing is happening. So in those days or weeks or months when, again, you feel radio silence like Moses did for 40 years, you know that Jesus will deliver and that He's always good, and that He will provide. And I think just clinging to that is such a huge hope and just so important in our lives when we're in those really challenging times. We're always called to remember the holiness of God and to respond in worship. And the biggest reward of the process is intimacy with God. So in those times where you feel like you're struggling, active pursuit of your faith is what is so important, and just giving everything to Him, as hard as it is day after day when you feel like He's not listening or He's not there, that is what will ultimately lead to intimacy with God, which is all that we can hope for.